Hey guys, so Kyrie Irving requested a trade yesterday in the middle of nowhere. I was in the middle of my class and I just checked my phone, and then I saw like 20 minutes ago that Woj and Shams tweeted that Kyrie requested a trade, and it kind of came out of completely nowhere, but let's talk about it. So yeah, this came out of nowhere, and with Kyrie, stuff coming out of nowhere seems like a common reoccurring theme with just random stuff that he says and whatnot coming out of nowhere. But I'm a little bit disappointed just because I was actually kind of excited for this Nets team because it feels like they finally figured it out. Like the beginning of the season, there was so much drama and everything going on with Kyrie, with Steve Nash, with KD. It just seemed like like KD asked for a trade in the summer. He wanted Steve Nash gone. Kyrie had the whole anti-Semitic stuff going on. It just seemed really bad. He got like suspended by the league. He got suspended by the Nets. He didn't play a couple games. It was just really bad vibes and everything. Ever since then, though, it has just been like pure basketball. And, when KD was healthy, the Nets were looking really good. Nick Claxton has been like a really good defender this year. He's been like growing like crazy. And Kyrie and KD have just been balling. They were both really good this season so far, even with Ben Simmons being still pretty disappointing in the way that he's not aggressive and whatnot. The Nets have been, and they were, a contending team. I really wanted to finally see them play in the playoffs, and I feel like they could have been a big contender, but now it's all done. It's all done for the Nets again. This is the third time it has happened for the Nets in, I think, like the last 16 months. First, it was James Harden who asked out with a trade. Then it was KD. Now it's Kyrie. 3 superstars asking out of Brooklyn. Obviously there is blame to put on Kyrie for this because he has done a lot of stuff with the COVID stuff and the stuff earlier in the season and whatnot. But I was listening to my this podcast today, Through the Wire podcast, and they brought up the thing that's been going on with the Nets the whole time is that ever since KD and Kyrie have got here in Brooklyn, they've been allowed to do whatever they wanted, and the Nets gave them everything that they ever wanted, which led up to why Kyrie asked out. Obviously, Kyrie's on the last year of his deal, and, earlier in the season, people were cooking up Kyrie trades when all this stuff was going down because it seemed like the Nets wanted to get rid of him because the image was so bad and whatnot, but they held on to him, and his value has gone up, but he still has only this year left on his contract. But it seemed like the way that the Nets were playing recently and how good they were, it still seemed like, hey, you know what? If they do really well in the playoffs this season, Kyrie might resign. KD is still here. The success and winning always helps smooth things over. And they came out recently and said, they want to stay in Brooklyn. And a report came out that the reason that this whole trade request even began is during the contract extension or like next, the discussions. Brooklyn wanted some stipulations, and Kyrie's camp thought that was like disrespectful to the level of player that Kyrie is, and thought that, he deserves better than this. I'm assuming, there was some reports came out that there would be some stipulations if they won a championship, probably get some more money or whatever in that circumstance. Maybe it wasn't enough years that Kyrie wanted or whatnot, which, on the Brooklyn side, trying to make a more team-friendly deal for yourself after everything that Kyrie's done while being in your organization, it does make sense. But I don't think Kyrie is completely in the wrong for this because, as I said, this entire time since KD and Kyrie have been here, the Nets have given them whatever they wanted. First, they got here, they fired, I forgot the old coach, but they hired Steve Nash because that's who they wanted. They went out and they traded for James Harden because that's what KD and Kyrie wanted. They've just been giving them whatever they wanted on a silver platter. And when you get KD and Kyrie in free agency, and that seems like an amazing duo, and it is an amazing duo basketball-wise, you will do whatever they want, because, that those are your stars, and those are your championship. Like, that's how you win a championship, with those stars. But if you give them everything, whatever they want, and now at this point you're trying to be like, no, we're not gonna give you whatever you want. Like with KD, they called his bluff and they didn't want to trade him because they weren't gonna fire Steve Nash. Guess what? At the start of the season, they still fired Steve Nash, so KD still got what he wanted. They didn't hold their ground, even though, firing Steve Nash was the right idea. But now with this Kyrie thing, instead of just giving Kyrie the contract that he would have wanted, even when he said, like, he wanted to stay in Brooklyn, now they're being all like, no, we're giving some stipulations, whatever, we're not just gonna give you whatever contract you want. This led up to Kyrie just simply asking out for a trade and being like, if you guys don't trade me right now, I'm leaving in the summer. The trade deadline is on February 9th. That's literally like 4 more days. They have to trade Kyrie in the next 4 days, or else he's going to leave this summer. And this has put Brooklyn in an awful position, because while Kyrie is a really good player, and I think in most normal situations, you could get a pretty decent package for Kyrie, even with everything off court about him and how unpredictable he is and whatnot, and he can say some crazy stuff sometimes. He's still a really good all-star starter player who could get you back a lot in the trade normally. Now, when there's 4 days left until the trade deadline and he publicly says that he wants to be traded, and if he's not traded, he's going to leave this summer, that puts the Brooklyn Nets in a position where they cannot get almost anything of value for Kyrie, because everybody else knows he's just going to leave in the summer. So for most teams, if Kyrie doesn't want to be there, he's just going to leave in the summer, which that eliminates most teams from trading for him. And, that means that Kyrie is going to have to be traded to a team that he wants to go to, and a team that is going to re-sign him, or else that team is just going to be giving up stuff to get a guy for half a season, and then he's going to leave in the summer. So that really limits the amount of teams to only a few that are willing to trade for Kyrie and have the money to re-sign him in the offseason. And that also limits Brooklyn in almost any trading talk scenario, because everybody knows that he's going to leave in the summer. You're not going to be able to get a lot of money, or get a lot of players or picks or whatever for a guy that is going to leave in the summer if he's not on the team that he wants to be. So, speaking of teams that he could be traded for, obviously, number one on that list is the Lakers. Even during all the stuff earlier in the season, when they were thinking about trading Kyrie originally, the Lakers was one of the teams to get him. Obviously, the connection with LeBron, and the Lakers have money this offseason to re-sign him. And I think they want another star. Even if it's Kyrie, they want another star alongside LeBron and AD. Kyrie and LeBron worked out in Cleveland in terms of winning a championship. And I think that would be the best spot for Kyrie, alongside a LeBron who can run the point and set everybody up, and a really good defensive guy like AD who can also get his own. I think it would be amazing. It would be an amazing trio. But for the Nets side, what can the Lakers give up? They can give up Russell Westbrook for money reasons, and then like a pick, like their 2027 pick. But obviously, the Nets don't want to pair Russell Westbrook alongside Kevin Durant. So that is really the big problem with the Lakers getting Kyrie in the situation. I think for a Kyrie to Lakers trade, there has to be a third team involved, because I think it's going to have to be sending Russ to another third team, like a Utah Jazz or a San Antonio Spurs, and sending that pick to that team, and then that team sends a few competent players to the Nets, because the Nets are in a position where they still have Kevin Durant right now, so they need competent players that can actually play, because they still have aspirations as a championship team. Now, if Kyrie is traded, that again opens up the possibility of a Kevin Durant trade. I don't know if that could happen before the trade deadline, because that would be like literally 4 days to make a Kevin Durant trade. And at that point, the entire Brooklyn Nets organization and team is completely flipped around. Their season completely flipped around. I don't think they want to do that. So they're going to try and get some amount of competent players back for Kyrie. But the way that it's set up with Kyrie just being able to leave in the summer for any team that he doesn't want to be on, the teams that are in line to trade for him is literally like the Lakers, and then the few other teams that Woj reported on, the Mavericks. Obviously, the Mavericks need another star alongside Luka. I think that's kind of a bad fit, though, and I don't think it would really work out. The Suns would be interesting because they could trade Chris Paul for Kyrie. I also don't know if that one is going to work out. And then the Clippers is another team. They need a point guard. I think Kyrie, Kawhi, Paul George would be a really cool trio. And the Clippers actually have some players that they could send back. A Luke Kennard, a Robert Covington, just some other guys that they could actually send back to the Nets that the Nets would actually be interested in. But again, like I said before, this whole situation alongside about Kyrie is kind of a mess. It has made the trade deadline way more interesting because the NBA has been really dry recently. It looked like it was going to be a kind of a dry trade deadline, but now this Kyrie thing, he's almost guaranteed going to get moved in the next 4 days. That can open up a Kevin Durant trade. That can open up, other teams responding based off a Kyrie trade to maybe, OG Anunoby finally getting traded. I'm just talking about the Raptors now. Fred getting traded. Whatever. Other teams, once Kyrie gets traded, that'll really start the trade deadline, which hopefully will be very entertaining this Thursday.